You know, we're all constantly telling ourselves stories. But what happens when the most important story, the one about who you are, is actually a trap? Today, we're diving into a powerful defense mechanism that, yeah, it feels like a shield, but it can so easily turn into a cage. So, really let that question sink in for a moment. Because the enemy we're unpacking here, it's not some villain out there. It's a story. A story we tell ourselves, one built on blame and failure brick by brick, to protect us from a truth that's maybe just too hard to face. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Deep down, every single one of us wants to be the hero of our own life, right? It's this basic, fundamental drive to feel like our existence actually matters. But this whole quest for heroism is not just about ego. It's actually a profound defense against a fear we all share, the terror of death. I know the terror of death sounds super heavy, but honestly, it's an incredibly powerful driver for us. Just knowing that our time here is limited, that's what pushes us to find meaning, to feel like we're special in some way. You could say that this fear is the very thing that lights the fire for our quest to be a hero. So if we're all after the same thing, this hero story, how do we go about getting it? Well, it turns out, psychologically speaking, we tend to get pulled down one of two very, very different paths. Or maybe it's more that we feel the pull of both of these paths inside us. All right, so let's look at the two big strategies for dealing with society. Path A is what you might call the way of the sheep. It's about conformity, right? You follow the rules, the cultural scripts, and you find your validation by being part of the group. But then there's Path B, the antiheroes path. This is a complete rejection of all that. It's about isolating yourself from a society that just feels, well, too absurd or just plain too hard. And the way these two paths protect the ego, totally different. For the conformist, safety comes from fitting in. You get that group approval and you feel secure. But for the anti-hero, when the social playbook just isn't working for them, they build a whole different kind of defense. And that's the victim mentality. It becomes this shield designed to block the incredibly sharp pain of feeling like a personal failure. And this right here, this is the real core of our cautionary tale. The anti-hero's shield. The thing is, it's not just some feeling that happens to you. Oh no, it's an active, even a creative process. It's you crafting a story where it's always someone else's fault. Just let that sink in for a second. This victim story isn't a sign of weakness, not at all. It's an incredibly powerful tool to soothe yourself. Its whole job is to take the blinding pain of failure and aim it somewhere else, creating a new story where a little voice is always whispering, hey, this isn't on you. So what is this victim mentality really? It's a shield forged from one thing and one thing only: blame. It flips the script, making outside forces the bad guys, and your lack of success, that just becomes proof of how powerful they are. It's a really, really clever way to protect your ego when the truth just hurts too much. And who are these villains? Well, they could be anybody: your family, your peers, society, the system. The finger of blame can point anywhere. Honestly, the target itself isn't what's important. It's the act of pointing, the act of blaming, that does all the work. And here's the truly tragic part. In an effort to protect themselves, the anti-hero starts to tear down the whole idea of a meaningful life. Why? Because if you admit that victory is possible for other people, you're forced to ask that gut-wrenching question, so why not me? It's just so much easier to tell yourself the entire game is rigged from the start. But carrying the shield, man, it has a steep, steep price. It doesn't bring you peace. It drags you down into depression, anxiety, and this quiet, burning self-hatred. Eventually, it can lead to total nihilism, this belief that winning is impossible and the search for meaning is just a cruel joke. The very shield that was supposed to protect you ends up being the walls of your own prison. Okay, up to this point, we've been talking about the anti-hero like it's this character in a story, right? Like it's someone else. Well, now it's time to turn the camera around. It's time for a look in the mirror, because this is where it all gets very, very personal. Because this next part, this is probably the most important takeaway of this whole explainer. These aren't two different types of people. The sheep and the anti-hero, they're not labels for others. They are two competing urges that live inside every single one of us. It's that pull to conform and belong, right alongside the temptation to retreat and blame when things get tough. So what this means is that being psychologically healthy isn't about picking one path and sticking to it forever. It's about managing the constant push and pull inside you. It's a battleground, really, between that drive to connect with the world and that seductive temptation to just hide behind a shield. So, the big question is, if we all have this anti-hero inside us, what are we supposed to do about it? How do we actually break free from that self-defeating cycle? The good news is there is a way forward. It really boils down to 3 key steps. Step 1, you just have to recognize it. You have to hear that voice of the anti-hero within and just acknowledge it's there. Step 2, you have to make a conscious choice to move past the blame game. And third, and this is the big one, you have to start looking for your own solutions, taking real ownership for building a life that feels meaningful to you. So, look, we've spent this whole time breaking down this shield, what it's made of, why we build it, and the heavy price we pay for carrying it. So the only real question left, the one that only you can answer, is this. Now that you can see the shield for what it is, are you brave enough to put it down?